So, hello and welcome to Overdice, a podcast video thing where we three GMs and DMs just chat about random stuff and about gaming, game mastering itself, and other random topics that spark our fancy. I'm Lily. Well, here I have with me Tony. Why don't you wave?
Hi.
And Kevin.
Hello.
Perfect. All right. So, today is our first episode. Woohoo! I'm sure as
Yay.
we go on, we'll get better at this. And we'll get better at talking and stuff and get a lot smoother. And I'm sure we'll get better like webcams too and microphones as time goes on.
Yes, in our copious free time and abundance of money.
Yeah, because we are obviously, very.
Not doing this in our apartment with the things we already have.
And a camping mat behind Tony's head.
Or, in a rented room in someone else's house. No.
Exactly. And that thing, yes, dear. This first session, episode. I'm so used to sessions. We're gonna be discussing how we got into gaming in general and how long we've been in gaming. When we started GMing or DMing, that's game mastering and dungeon mastering for you all out there, and why we started mastering games. So, Kevin, why don't you start us off with how you got into gaming and such?
Well, let's see. My friends from high school, I'd come back from college and was there over the summer, and they wanted to try Dungeons and Dragons. There was a new edition coming out, 4th edition. They needed someone to DM it, and they're bouncing back between people. And I was like, I probably wouldn't be too bad at this. So I decided, all right. I started becoming a DM and ran the intro starter pack for, I think it was called the Red Box back in the day. Oh God, it feels so long ago now. Only like 5 years, maybe.
And so you started gaming as the DM?
Yeah.
Wow, look at you.
I was right from the very beginning. I had never done Dungeons and Dragons before. However, what I had done, I guess if I go even farther back to when I was a young 12-year-old boy,
A wee little lad.
yeah, I guess maybe I should go back a little bit further.
When you started gaming?
When I really started being a DM, there was Warcraft 3, a custom map made for, DMing almost. You'd have the dungeon master, and then you'd have, the players play as the heroes, and they run around, and I'd put down monsters and make quests and stuff, and do roleplay, and be like text with combat resolved within the game. So that's actually how I started, and I did that for many years. And eventually, I went into the chat logs, and we would just do pure text. And I remember some of the best ones we had were just between me and 2 other guys, and we would just go back and forth, and I was always the villain. They would always love playing, the main characters. I was like, it's not interesting to have heroes without some conflict, because a hero is only as good as, the conflict that they'll overcoming. So, and I always had the opinion that, sometimes the bad guys should win, because sometimes the heroes do stupid shit.
Merp.
They shouldn't get rewarded for that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I like about D&D is that you can fail.
Spectacularly, too.
Oh, and it's always so wonderful when it happens. But even in failure, they can still work it to their advantage in some way, if they're clever enough about it. Or sometimes you can work the success into a disadvantage. You trick them in some way, or there's a twist or something. The Baron that they were working for is actually a vampire. That's a classic.
It was all the time.
A few times. And it's just the most satisfying feeling. So yeah, I started with that, and then finally they did Dungeons and Dragons, and that's when I first did it in person. With my high school friends, and that lasted until I went back to school in Cal Poly with the rest of these guys here. So I guess we'll leave that as the start.
Yeah, well, we'll be able to segue into that with my story about gaming. Tony, why don't we go to you?
Um, I probably started quite a number of years before you guys, but that's a completely separate group. Most of the current group, I think, other than Daniel, is like the beginnings of Kevin's group plus the beginnings of Lily's group combined. So I guess I'm kind of an edge case here. I started with Daniel, Danny, whatever, and his brother, and my sister in his parents' house with, I think, the basic set of D&D 3rd edition, like stock 3rd edition, which came with like pre-built characters. And out of that, I want to say Danny ran the first session. I played Regdar and Lita, the fighter and the rogue. Um, John played the Dwarven cleric, and my sister played something else. Can't remember. The half elven archer. That's right. Because we were absolute quack at creating our own characters at that point, so we just kind of ran with cookie cutter stuff. Um, Danny really wanted to be a player, if I remember correctly, so I think I ran the second session. And then it kind of took from there. Somehow we stumbled across GURPS after D&D, and John, Danny's brother, started running games, because John was way better at writing than we were, and I didn't really have the patience for John's antics in the games. So John ran the games for a little bit. GURPS, I really liked that, because it was a way more open framework and stuff, and we weren't limited to what 3rd edition had at the time. A couple of years after that, 3.5 came out, and it was like a world of difference, and I was like, I can totally run games now. And then I ran games. Ended up in the Air Force, and our group kind of started from there. I stumbled across some people playing in the dorms and joined them as a player, and then started running games with them. 2 separate groups, and ended up picking up a third at that point, because as geeks in the Air Force, love our video games and roleplay games. So on our weekends we would do that until wee hours of the morning. Ended up playing a few 3.5, like original 3rd, 2nd edition, and GURPS a little bit. And then one of us discovered Pathfinder, and that was the glorious rabbit hole of SRD. And then suddenly we had like everyone's homebrew characters and classes, and it was a terrible, terrible thing to befall the 4 GMs of that group, because it was just so much work. And then we figured out that keeping everything stock is so much simpler and more fun. And Kevin's going, yep. Yep. Because everything I do in his sessions is usually pretty custom, and I'm complicated. After that, I started playing more as a player when I got back to California with Kevin. If I remember correctly, Kevin had already started running games by that point. Lilly was one of his players. I joined in, having never played 4th edition, and I decided within a session that it was dumb and I hate it.
I remember.
Which I think is the general community response. But once I got it, as a player, I was actually interested in running games as a GM again. Because I miss it. As a player, you don't get near the power of storytelling as the GM does. And I ended up running a GURPS game with this group, plus a few additional others. And the group kind of grew from there, and now we're all on Roll20, it seems, with our every other week thing. So that's how I got started. My history is a little bit more variety, but the groups kind of merged into one, as they tend to do. We lose players, we gain players, and the game masters tend to stay fairly constant because we have our role. As a player and as a character both. As Kevin says, it's really fun to play the villain. and we're kind of doing that as players now again, which is gloriously fun. You never really get to play the bad guy, and
Oh, I
it's
disagree. As a player, you
Lilly-
can definitely play the bad guy,
Lily's-
but it is not
Lily's
often.
kind of
Usually
a
it's the
special
GMs who do
case.
it. Yeah, sorry.
I think Lily's segue into gaming kind of comes up here as well, both as a player and as a game master. So
Well-
we can hand it off to her.
All right. So, for me, actually, I started playing Dungeons and Dragons in elementary school. Little fact that you guys might not know about me. Now, this wasn't your traditional Dungeons and Dragons. I was in elementary school, and there was this one kid who said he knew Dungeons and Dragons. So we'd literally run around the playground, and he'd say, "Okay, here's this environment. What are you gonna do?" And I said, "I do this thing." And then he arbitrarily decided whether or not we succeeded without any dice rolling, and we literally played make believe within the loose framework of Dungeons and Dragons. So that's how I first got really into the storytelling and gaming thing. And then I moved to a different school, and none of my friends were into those kind of things, and nothing really happened for me gaming wise until I went to college. And a friend of mine said, "Hey, we were talking about random things. We were talking about Dungeons and Dragons came up, and I mentioned that I've always really wanted to play the real version, not the thing from many many moons ago." And she said, "Yeah, my friend Kevin is starting a campaign. He's starting it next week." I'm like, "Ooh, I cannot make it next week, but maybe the next time." She's like, "Oh yeah, sure, bring it. Come on over." And so I came as soon as I could to the second session and brought baked goods, which unfortunately set the precedent for me bringing baked goods to games. So I brought baked goods to every single session.
I would say it fortunately set a precedent of baked goods for every session.
That
That was
So we're
precedent
totally okay with that.
That precedent
Yes.
continued through Kevin's campaign, Tony's campaign, and even when I was game mastering, I brought baked goods for my players. And when I couldn't make it from scratch, I would send Tony on a donut run, and we get Sudoku. But yeah, so I started gaming. I did once play a brief session of 3.5 on New Year's Eve that Tony ran with Daniel and a few other friends who did not really get into it at all. Then I started playing with Kevin, though Kevin didn't really play 4.0. He played Kevin.0, which was a modification of 4.0, so it worked better for us, which is another reason why it took Tony so long to adjust to it, because it wasn't what the rules said, it's what was Kevin said, which was modification of the rules. I learned on Kevin.0, so it was easier for me. And then, yeah, I was a part of Tony's GURPS campaign later, and then I ran my own GURPS campaign set in a high fantasy setting, which was lovely. And then after we all graduated and moved out of SLO and kind of split up, we continued playing games on Roll20 and in Hangouts. And my campaign ended, and now I'm doing one-offs and exploring different new systems. I have run before the Plays a Thing, but haven't yet done a recording. Everyone is John. And there's a new system called not new to me system that called Dungeon World that I'm so excited to try out with the players, and I think you guys will like it too because it's very storytelling based. It's both the players and the GM can heavily influence the world in the storytelling, and that's what it's all about. There is combat, there is dice rolls. It still has that classical, RPG elements, but it's still a lot more story based, and that actually the story drives the combat and the combat drives the story, and it just all feeds on each other. So yeah, so I've been officially gaming, not nearly as long as you guys. Well, not nearly as long as Tony, not quite as long as Kevin, but I am obviously really getting a kick out of it. So yeah. So
Do you want me to explain what Kevin.0 is?
Yes, let's explain 10.0.
Because I still don't know.
I think I'm the only one who truly does.
Yes, you are.
The whole point of, I didn't don the term. I think someone else used it. I think that's when Tony really started to like gaming with me, was when he realized that I really did it differently. Because I would combine elements of, so that time I had experience like Pathfinder, and so there were certain things I liked about and disliked about it. I think by that point,
pretty, like 3.75.
yeah,
Like half.
somewhere in between, yeah. and also the entirely free form. Like Lilly was talking about how she would just run around the yard with people. Like, I mean, my role playing experience was mostly free form as well. When I just did purely text based, and like there was very arbitrary how we decided success or failure, and it was normally just resolved in long arguments. Rolling the dice is a lot easier to resolve those arguments and much faster.
Yes.
But yeah, the point is, so I was used to, just a very heavily roleplay based thing, and 4.0 was heavily combat based. So I tried to bring in a lot more story elements to it, try to use the skills a lot more often, that kind of thing. I tried to have like the big encounter, and most of it like half encounter, half roleplay. So that's the kind of thing that let people do, and I'd have a lot of people like say, "Can I try this?" And it was like, I don't want to say no. Let's see how you do on the roll, And then if you fail, I get to do something terrible to them because they try to do something stupid, and if they roll high enough, then they get to do something epic. So I mean, it's win-win either way.
Like Georgie.
So, yes, like Georgie.
Yeah, Georgie, I'm sure will come up frequently, so I should probably explain Georgie. When I was in Kevin's campaign, my second character, because we killed off my first one, seeing as she was chaotic evil, and all the other players were good, and it just she didn't get killed by them.
It's a detriment to the party, and as a GM, having another character that's a detriment to the party is more work, and can, in my case, has before fractioned an entire group, and that just doesn't bode well. So, kill off the first character.
So we killed off.
She was never killed. She was never killed. She split off. I think that's the more proper term.
We thought she was dead. But anyways, so she left. I had a new character, Leovan Swordsteel, I think it was? Something Steel. Leovan. And he was a dwarf fighter, because my other character was a human cleric, and so I just went, lawful good to combat the chaotic evil, and no, I was neutral, then become neutral good. But anyways, back to the story. So we were on a ship, and we were being attacked by a bunch of wyverns, and Kevin just happened to offhand mention that they could be mounts. I think he was trying to let us know that like we could be attacked by monsters riding the wyverns as mounts to kill us, but I got that as, I need one. I must have one. I will have one. So I shouted mid-combat, "Everyone, make sure you don't kill one of them." And then I was, again, dwarf fighter, not particularly nimble with tying things, barely succeeded my thievery check to like tie up a harness for him. And then every time he woke up, I just kept punching him in the head to knock him unconscious. And that's how Georgie and I became best friends. And we went on lovely adventures until Leovan died. And that's that story.
Dead.
And I miss Georgie, and I in fact named Mannequin after Georgie in his memory, because it was such a great moment. And the thing is, that's one of the great things about gaming.
She rolled really well.
I did.
She wasn't supposed to have Georgie as the mount.
And that's
they never do.
As a GM.
But the thing is, that's the great thing about gaming, is that you can have these potential experiences that shouldn't happen, but then they do. And then it's just magical and a great thing that you want to, and in my case did, tell everyone in your life about, including my classmates who had no idea what was going on, already thought I was weird, and of course made them think I was weirder. And I still have moments where I think about Georgie now and again, and it will always be a fond memory I will have. So that's I think one of the joys of gaming, as a player as well as a GM.
Oh my gosh. I feel like most of my players have that kind of experience within a campaign, because like for Michael it's Chuck, the zombie that he would chuck at enemies.
Also a zombie butler. He would
and was a butler, yes. Yeah. He was fed.
Which I missed. That was before my time with this group, which is horribly sad, because this kind of thing makes the group hold together. Yeah.
Because they keep trying to like bring back another zombie butler, like Michael's current reincarnation. He has a sort of butler, but it's not quite the same. He
had a zombie angel for a bit that died.
Oh yeah, that's right. He did zombify an angel that was basically died to the boss NPC as the rest of them ran away.
Pretty much, yeah.
Basically sacrificed him, so
For the Overlord.
it tanked for a while.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's one of the joys of gaming. Is there anything that either of you would like to discuss about why you like gaming? Any particular memories of gaming moments that you would like to share, or something interesting like that? Not to put you on the spot or anything.
I feel put on the spot. Tell me what you think.
Like specific memories or
Whatever
like
you
what-
want. You can talk about specific memories. You can talk about just general things about gaming, that what it makes it worthwhile for you, why you game, versus instead of just watching Netflix all the time in your spare time.
Can't I do both?
You can do both. I'm just asking why you
Okay.
choose some of
I
your
hope
Netflix
not.
time.
Hope not at the same time.
Why you take some of your
No.
Netflix time and put that to
Oh.
gaming.
On that matter, things that help make a GM's life easier.
Okay.
Don't be a distracted player, which I'm guilty of the same. Like when I'm not an active player in Kevin's sessions, I will probably be like doing something to not interfere with the other players. But as a player, if you're in the room or at the table and you're on your laptop or you're on your phone and you're like bleepy blooping, like making noise, that kills it for everyone. And I'm guilty of the same sometimes, and I have to remember that.
I
But
just throw stuff at you.
yes, you do. Sometimes they're solid
Dice. Primarily.
dice, like the
Giant
metal
blue
dice.
crayon.
Oh yes, that. One of the things with groups like this, especially in person, you end up with inside jokes and things that keep your group together through both in person and stuff like Roll20. Tool sets like Roll20 allow groups that aren't in person to still keep themselves together. And I've used a multitude of them. Roll20 seems to be the most simplest to get into it, probably because it doesn't require software installed on your computer. And software always breaks. All the time. Roll20 very rarely breaks. And that's why
I was
Kevin
gonna
probably...
say it's definitely broken a few times.
Well, yeah, we tend to break Roll20 on Kevin, which is wonderful fun.
But we like to break things.
Yeah. The dynamic lighting is really nice. We need to be using that more often.
Yeah.
Other stuff.
Kevin, do you have any particular things about gaming that keeps you coming back, and instead of spending your time playing XCOM and XCOM 2?
Well, first off, XCOM 2 isn't out yet.
I know.
But when it is, then it's going to be really hard to, play Dungeons and Dragons when there's XCOM 2 to be played. But I'll still pull through, I think.
Why will you? What is it about gaming that brings you back?
Because it's the people. Like the same friends. Like most of these guys, they're all over everywhere. We have. I don't remember, where is Megan right now. I know she's the farthest away.
Montana or Minnesota? I can't remember which.
I think Minnesota.
Minnesota. Montana's a different one of my high school friends.
Yes, that.
So I think she's like in Minnesota. Then we have people all over the Bay Area. Someone in Sacramento. I'm somewhere between SF and Sacramento, and just we're all over the place. And whereas
And
before,
LA as well.
yeah, LA, and whereas before we had people who were, we were all in these different apartments that were like maybe a 5-minute walk from each other, so we'd be able to do it in person a lot easier.
Yeah.
Now it's like an hour-long drive or a 3-hour-long flight.
Yeah.
Like people can't see each other in person anymore. So this is the way that I can still keep in contact with people and just know what's going on. Because obviously, like as we're getting people together, and people come in at different times, and you just talk and see what's going on with people, and that's really what, like, for me, that's what it is. Like, it's a way for people to stay together, and them do something together that seems meaningful to everyone, and people can have a good time and laugh and make new memories through this, and come up with new inside jokes, and how to always new inside. Yeah, exactly.
Well, we have a new
So
one now.
that,
The quacking.
what's the new?
I think the quacking
Oh, yeah.
is now officially one.
Yes, the gamer duck.
Well, actually, I do have to tell that story at some point, but that's for another session.
You keep telling it and all the others. I think we'll be okay.
Anyways.
As long as you slip it into one of the session intros or like during a session, it'll make sense to people who are catching on.
Or you
yeah,
could just have like a little separate thing where it's like, explain the quack, you know?
Oh, no.
Or what the quack, and you click on
What the
that
quack.
link and explain the story.
No, I'm sure.
And then
I'm sure it'll come up when we discuss MMOs and that kind of stuff because that is my MMO story. So.
Mhm.
Yes. Good old Neverwinter.
Yeah. But anyways,
Yeah, I forgot what I was talking about, but
you covered it. You were talking
Yeah.
about why you love gaming and what it is about you. For me, it's the chances for those experiences and bringing people together as well, and just the whole aspect of storytelling because I like telling stories. Even though I stopped gaming because my friends weren't officially into gaming, we still told stories. We plotted different methods of world domination. I don't know how many times. I've lost count. Like, there are many different methods of world domination we discussed. We went into planning and details with it. We created a
And now we're
new
on a watch
nation.
list.
We wrote the Declaration of Destruction. Well, actually, I didn't write that, but there was one day the Declaration of the Destruction of Lilly was written, and then I created the United Unnamed Nations. Like, we still did storytelling. It just was not within the fantasy setting, which I missed. Yeah, fantasy, and I mean, I do enjoy good other settings as well, but high fantasy has a special place in my heart. As a steampunk, which someday, eventually, I'll run that campaign that I've been working on forever, and that will be
And I
fun.
am so excited.
Yeah, it'll be a fun campaign. But anyways, so thanks, guys. This has been a good talk. I already have 2 guest talkers lined up for speakers, I guess, for the next episodes. I need to get better at calling them episodes. For the next episodes of Overdice. Yes. This is episode 1 of Overdice. And thanks, you guys,
0.
and I'll see you next time.
bye.
And now, time for the blooper reel. All right. You guys ready? Oop, get a little bloop. Okay, that's better.
It's my hair.
Let me just.
Okay, well then. Good? Okay. Everyone ready? Done primping? All right. Oh, I had a thing written out. No, I had a thing written out. I'm finding it. Sorry, this is a little
Clearly
discombobulated.
organizational.
We'll
You're
get
more
there.
organized as the GM than you are as a podcaster. Amusing.
I'm more experienced at GMing, okay? Jeez.
Well, that's when you use your powers of GM to improvise.
I know. And the thing is, I was about to improvise, and then I realized I had a really great intro that I cannot find. So I'm going to improvise.
Spoken like a true GM.
Exactly.
It's like,
Perfect.
I can't find it, so, alright.
All right, so make crack up. All right.
Or, I found it.
Oh, hey, look, I
Just
found the
like-
thing I just made up in my head. It's in my head.
Yeah,
It's right here.
that's exactly how it works.
All right, let's actually officially get started.